Hey, on my Travel Wins podcast, my guest today is Jason Redman. Jason is a retired Navy SEAL who received the Bronze Star with Valor Medal. He's now an entrepreneur, best-selling author of 2 books, the first one being Trident, and his latest venture is titled Overcome, which can't think of a better title for the times that we're going through. He's also a motivational speaker and a father and, more importantly, a husband. How are you today, Jason?
Pete, I'm awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
I appreciate the time, buddy. You know, I was looking at your book, Overcome, and I'm like, I know you didn't write that for the worldwide lockdown, but boy, what timing is that?
Yeah, you're spot on. And what's been really cool is the people that have read it, specifically in the beginning of the year, in the first half of the year, they would reach out to me and say, "Oh my God, I just want to say thank you for giving me this book. Like, it's everything I needed to keep myself on course and positive, in the midst of all this chaos that's going on." So it's been pretty neat. That's a pretty nice validation. And we're actually releasing the paperback in December. So we're getting ready to do another publicity push. And exactly that, unfortunately, the craziness will continue for a while. This pandemic's going to continue. So dealing with the stress that's going with this, I can't think of a better book that kind of helps people to both deal with adversity and make sure you don't get off course with all the distractions that come with, the problems such as a pandemic.
Well, it's interesting because you overcame a lot, being shot multiple times in Fallujah. But also now you're having to overcome. So you set up this entire business of public speaking and going out and meeting groups and crowds and book signings that you can't do now. So you're going to have to overcome that again.
No, you're spot on. Like many people in different businesses, I would say there's a couple of key business areas that have really been hammered hard. The restaurant industry, obviously the travel industry, the event industry is one of the big ones, and we were on track to have our best year yet. We came out of the gate so strong in January and February, and we had more. I've averaged anywhere between 60 to 70 events per year for the last couple of years. And for 2020, we already had 100 books on the events the end of February. And of course, overnight, it all started to dry up. And, cancellations and postponements and all of that. So, yeah, like many people, I had to follow my own advice, which the reality is, I try and tell people everything that I've developed, I didn't just develop it for
other people.
Yeah, I really developed it for myself. They were all things that I learned. They were, when I got out of the military, the civilian world's very different from the military. In some ways, you don't realize it till you get out, but the military creates this level of structure. And I almost want to say I don't want to say it's easy. There's obviously high levels of adversity that come along with being in the military, but it's a very structured life, and it makes it very easy. And, you got pretty rigid right and left limits, even within special operations units. And you get into the civilian world and you don't have any of that. You've got to put all those things in place. So I got out and I was like, man, I need to instill some things within my own life. And that's really how all these different tools that I use, 2021, I'm launching a whole new program to try and help other people do those same things. But in the beginning, it was all for me.
It's interesting. Professional athletes go through very similar things. I've talked to a couple on the show and from high school through college and then into their pro football careers, their lives were structured. Their coaches, everything you're told to go here. Here's your classes. Here's when you're going to eat. Here's your study hall. Blah blah blah. And then after their 3.5 year career in the NFL, which is the average, ends, they go, shit, I got to get a job. Never had a job.
Yeah.
And no one's telling them when to wake up. No one's telling them when to eat. No one's telling them when to work out anymore. So now they have to figure it all out right from the get go.
Oh yeah, and the military guys have it. Oh, it's exactly the same. And I'll be honest, I think it's even, and it impacts people all the way across the board from, your most junior privates, corporals, all the way up to your senior leaders, your colonels and generals and admirals. And a lot of times at the more senior level, they're stepping into, high level company positions, but probably at the colonel level or the captain, Navy captain level, they may not be stepping into that, and they're so used to, they were at that level. They're in charge of. They're responsible for millions and millions and millions of dollars of equipment and personnel. And then there's a transition period that happens in the civilian world where they may not step into that same level, which makes it doubly challenging.
Yeah,
and I watch a lot of guys, and I felt it myself as I stepped out trying to navigate it. So, and then isn't that what life really is about, though? How you figure out how to navigate, that destination where you want to go. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people out there, they don't have a destination. They're just a ship adrift in the world, and trying to figure out their way.
That's interesting. You spent 21 years in the Navy, and you retired. But I mean, to me, you're still a young guy. It's like it's got to be interesting to go like, well, I'm retired 21 years, but now I've got to start over. I mean, did you ever think while you were in it what you were going to do afterwards, not knowing, the situation you were going to get shot and all that? Did you ever think, what am I going to do when I get out?
A little bit. But I'll be honest, I wanted to have a career within the Navy. I planned on doing 30 years. I mean, my wife and I had already agreed I was going to do 20. And then she told me after 20, we could take it,
Yeah, take another 10.
We could take it we could take it a year at a time, but, or at least a tour at a time. But I had always, I wanted to command a SEAL team. I wanted to serve at our highest tier of SEAL team. Secretly or inwardly, I had aspirations. Could I ever make admiral? I mean, all these different things. But I did recognize, and pre 9/11, the military was a different time. You have peacetime military and you have wartime military. And during peacetime military, there's a lot of training that goes on. But obviously not a whole lot of real world operations. And even within the SEAL teams, real world now that's kind of changed post 9/11 world, because there's a whole lot more things that are happening in the world where I think we're more involved than we were pre 9/11, which is one of the reasons I think America realized 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
We needed to have our ear on the pulse of things going on. So, post 9/11 is a little different, but pre 9/11, there wasn't a lot going on. And I had done several deployments. I worked as an instructor. I'd done all these different things. And I got recommended to go get a commission. And my family was military, and they all were officers. I was a black sheep that went enlisted. And I was like, oh, well, maybe now's the time. And not only that, I could go to school. I could get a business degree, no matter what. Even if I do 30 years in the military, someday this will come to an end. Yeah. And I was very young. I was literally 17 years old. I joined the Navy when I was in high school, my senior year of high school. And I was 19 when I graduated SEAL training. So I knew that even if I retired with 30 years, I would still need to go do something. So I kind of figured 50. Getting a business degree was a good call.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously helping you out now, even more so, the business degree.
It is. It's funny though, like many things in life. I got my business degree in 2004. So now when I look back on it, probably everything I learned is dated. About the only things that definitely still apply are the basic concepts of business. I understand a P&L. I understand balance sheets, cash flow analysis. I understand basic accounting. So all these things have definitely helped me in business. But there's a lot that's so dated now in the way the world works. You got to get out there and do it, like many things in life. And it has been trial and error with many of the things we did. My wife and I ran a nonprofit we ran it for almost 10 years and raised about $3 million to help wounded warriors. We launched my speaking company, and we've slowly been growing that, but we've managed to double our revenue almost every year. And then we launched our own speakers network to represent military, military law enforcement, fire, and we've got some wellness speakers also.
Nice.
So it's been a great journey, and like many, you make mistakes, but you figure it out and you drive forward. So
that's what you do. When you were in the SEALs and active, how much traveling is involved? Is it as far as training? How many days a year were you on the road, as it were, or in the air?
Nonstop. A lot of people, so a lot of military units, excluding special operations units, typically when they're home, they're home. And, whatever training they're going to do when they're home, they typically do on the base or the location, on the ship or, around the aircraft they're working with, depending on what branch of the military they work for. Well, special operations, because of the diverse nature of what we do, and specifically the SEAL teams, and if anybody doesn't know what SEAL stands for, it's an acronym for sea, air, and land. And we are America's premier maritime special operations force, meaning that we can do anything on land, anything coming out of aircraft in the air, skydiving, jumping, helicopter insertions, all this different stuff. And then, of course, all of it we can do from the water. Well, because of that, it causes we need to train all over the country and sometimes even internationally. And due to that, it causes us, even in a training cycle, to be gone all the time. The year before my last deployment to Iraq, I was the second in command, and one of the jobs of the second in command is to track all the administrative stuff for the task unit, the troop. So, everything from evaluations, reports, awards, and one of the other things I tracked was our travel and all that. And we were gone that year, the year prior to us deploying, 286 days out of the year. So,
say that again?
A lot of travel. 286 days.
Oh my God.
And the way it worked is typically you may be gone a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. I think one of our longest blocks of training was 6 weeks. But you would, anywhere in the country you would go and just, typically you'd be gone for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever the block training was. You may be home for a week or 2 weeks, and then you'd be gone again. And that is the life of a member of a special operations unit. You are always on the road.
So how long have you been with the long-haired admiral?
Long-haired admiral, or LHA, as I call her for short. We have now been together for 22 years. So we met in 90. Let's see.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Jay.
2020. Well, we've been married this year coming up, or next year it'll be 20 years married, but we've been together for almost 22.
So my question is, and I want to ask this for all my business travelers. Staying married and being on the road that much is difficult for just about everybody I talk to. What has been your secret to kind of balance 3 kids and a wife while you're gone 286 days?
Well, communication is definitely one. That's going to be the biggest thing. I mean, being interesting in what they're doing. But I think the other thing is, if you are in a career field that you are gone a lot, you need to have a spouse who is independent, that they're not sitting at home twiddling their thumbs waiting for you to come home, because that's going to create a lot of anxiety and stress. So, for anyone who's younger out there that is in a relationship and thinking about getting married and you travel a lot, just recognize you need an independent soul to balance you out. And that was one of the great things about the long-haired admiral. She definitely had a streak of independence. She was a natural entrepreneur. So she always had her own business or, her own thing. Yeah, exactly. So even though I was gone, she was focused on growing her business, doing her thing, raising the kids. And the other thing, I did not come home. And I think this is an important thing within a military family. And I think within any family, if you're gone all the time, you can't come home and expect to be, king and dictator of the household. When your significant other has been making all the calls, 80, 90% of the time.
That's a really good call.
Yeah, well, it happens a lot. It creates a lot of friction in some families, specifically in the military, where you get, and this is probably more of a guy trait. Guys come home and we're like, "Hey, I'm the king of my castle." You're not going to make all the calls, and and the spouse is like, "What are you talking about? You haven't been around."
I could see, here you are, you're SEAL team leader, in control, like you said, millions of dollars of equipment and literally in charge of people's lives. and then you come home and now you're supposed to not be in charge. That's the tough part. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that takes a little bit of humility and a little bit of recognizing, what a good job your spouse is doing, even if in your mind, which frequently happens, I could do a better job than they could, that you think that. But the reality is exactly. The reality is they're balancing a lot and they're probably doing a great job and probably better than you would be.
Well, yeah, that's, when my daughters went to college, I was like, what do I do? How do I fill up my time now? I had forgotten how much time children take when you want to be involved with their lives and their sports and everything else. It was like, whoa, I got a week.
Yeah, we're getting to the other side of that also. My youngest is 16 now, and all the athletic stuff. Our two oldest, my son and my middle daughter, were real big into sports.
Yeah.
And my middle daughter, really big. She was our biggest athlete, and she was actually going to play college volleyball, but then decided in her last year that the school she couldn't play D1 volleyball, or it'd be really rare.
Yeah.
Just she didn't have the height. Unfortunately, I'm short. My wife is short, and my daughter was blessed with being short. And D1, they want taller players. So she was kind of like, all right, well, the degree programs are at the D1 schools that I want. So she decided she was going to forego that, which brought an end to, she's still playing high school volleyball, but all the travel ball and everything we're doing has gone away. So yeah, like you, suddenly our weekends are our own again. And I'll be honest, and when we phased down the nonprofit, we were doing between the kids stuff and that, suddenly it is kind of nice. And you're like, wow, you actually have some free time. What do we do?
Yeah. I wake up on the weekend and go, okay, maybe I'll go fishing today. Maybe I'll go for maybe a bike ride. Maybe I don't know. It's just so weird from going, okay, I got to get you here. Cause both my daughters played lacrosse through high school. Both my girls were the same way. They were good enough to get a D2, maybe D3 for lacrosse, but they didn't. The degrees they wanted were D1. So I'm like, look, you're not going to college. What are you going to do with the lacrosse after college? Nothing. Then don't go to college for lacrosse. And they both played at least 1 year in college, but not at that level. And it was the same. I'm like, go to college to get your degree and get smart and move on.
That's funny. We had the same conversation.
Yeah.
Because I said, what are you going to do you're going to go play, high level volleyball at a D2 or D3, but if it's not the degree you want, what do you do with it? So,
yeah. That's a sport. One thing I wanted to ask you, I'm learning a lot about sleep and how important sleep is to our bodies. And then I started thinking, because when I travel, there's sometimes when I don't sleep well, especially if I go back east, because I got the 3-hour time difference. And so now instead of waking up at 6, I'm trying to wake up at 3 a.m., my body clock. How does, as a SEAL, do you guys even think about that? Or is that just like put to the side? Do you guys ever, put in sleep into your missions?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I meet a lot of people when I speak who read about SEAL training and they obviously know what Hell Week is. And for those that don't know, Hell Week is the hardest block in SEAL training. And it is an entire week of incredibly arduous, physical activity and almost no sleep. During Hell Week, which is an entire week, you get on average maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep for that week. And it is mind-numbingly grueling. There's about an 80% attrition rate during Hell Week. So a lot of people read that and they think, oh, well, my ability to be really hard is built on my ability not to sleep. And I'll have people come up to me and be like, hey, man, I get by on 4 hours of sleep at night. And I'm like, congratulations, you are chronically fatigued.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. And it's something, Pete, that I also have really become big into, when I look at, how we take care of our entire body. I want to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And I teach something called the Pentagon of Peak Performance, the 5 key areas that you have to have balance in your life to be an effective leader. And that base level is physical leadership, which is composed of 4 areas: physical nutrition, so fitness, nutrition, sleep, and defense. And sleep being one of those big ones that when you look at it, absolutely makes a difference. And I think that the SEAL teams in the book Overcome, I actually interview a lot of different high level people, and Bill McCraven is one of those individuals I interview. For those who may not recognize the name, Bill was the senior admiral. He was a SEAL, 4-star admiral in charge of all special operations, and he was who was in charge of the Bin Laden raid when it happened. And Bill and I were talking about the power of sleep and the impact of sleep, because you're scientists are beginning to understand how critical sleep is for us, and how really everything about human beings, our ability to heal, our ability to grow, our ability to reset, all occurs when we're sleeping. And if you truly want to be the best version of yourself, you've got to get good sleep. And everybody has their optimal time. For myself, I'm a 6-hour sleep night. If I go multiple days less than 6 hours, I really start to feel the impact of that. So I'm a 6 to 7 hours is where I want to be so that I can be optimal. And I try and explain that to people. And I think within special operations, we've really begun to realize that, hey, this is a critical thing. And if we can help it, if we're going in to do a really complex mission, rest is a part of that. So coming entirely full circle on your question, I mean, when I travel, and I do the same as you, when I'm changing time zones, I try to stay pretty close to the same time zone, which I'm an East Coast guy. Yeah. So when I go west, I'm getting up a lot earlier, which is a little crazy because I get up really early on the East Coast as it is. But
you're waking up
so
in the dark.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I adjust a little bit to try and make it easier for me, but I don't try and change it that much. And oftentimes, if you're going all the way over to Europe or someplace else where now there's massive, then I try and push through that fatigue to try and get myself maybe on that new time zone. And because at that point now, trying to stick to your old one, now you're totally offset, especially if you're there to do something. But if it's within the U.S., I try and stick to my existing sleep pattern.
So here's my secondary question, based still on sleep, because I agree with you. It's like when I was younger, I was going to say a kid, but that was a long time ago. No one talked about sleep. I mean, all the business books I ever read, all the business articles, no one ever talks about sleep. And now, just in the last couple of years, maybe it's because of the people I'm listening to or reading, they're taking it more serious. But when you're a SEAL, if I go to Nashville for a big meeting, a big meeting for me could be like 30% of my income for the year. How do you? I have a hard time falling asleep at that point, because now I'm thinking about the meeting and why I'm there and this and that, and I have nothing else to focus on. So now I'm just stuck thinking about this meeting, which means I don't get good sleep. I can only imagine, here maybe you're flying somewhere down south or to Iraq or Afghanistan. How do you sleep the night before a big mission? Because you need the sleep to be at your peak the next day, but how do you not think about the mission coming up?
Well,
sorry, it's a lot to unpack, but.
No. It's they're legitimate questions. And I will say that in the past, when I was younger in the SEAL teams, we cheated some. And that is that we would use Ambien or something. Although it also depended on how much time you had. Mm-hmm. Because Ambien is pretty, it'll knock you out. So if you only had, 6 hours, you don't want to take an Ambien. You're going to feel the effect of that for 10, 12 hours. So in those cases, there were definitely many nights where we had a big mission and it was like, all right, guys, you got 6 hours, go get some rack time. Where I know there were many nights that it was hard to sleep. I will say a big difference is if you do a lot in a day. I cram, my mom and other people that know me are like, I can't believe you did that much in one day.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just kind of the way I've always lived. I mean, I get up early and I want to get a workout in, and, I want to do all these things. So by the time I crawl into bed, regardless of what's going on the next day, I'm exhausted. So my body is craving that sleep. But every now and then it happens where I just can't sleep. And, and you do what you can. But I think that by doing what we talked about, one, fitness is a huge thing. We know that if you are moving your body, if you're working out, whatever is good for you, if you're getting outside, you're getting some sunlight, all those things help for you to sleep better. If you struggle with sleep, all the artificial light that we have in our life now, TV, our phone, iPads, computers, all these things. If you struggle to go to sleep within an hour of bedtime, don't look at that stuff. It tells your brain, your brain is being bombarded with blue light from those devices, which is triggering your brain to stay awake. Oh, it's time to stay awake. So those are all little hacks that you can do to try and get good sleep. And those are things that I try and do. No matter where I'm at, I still try and maintain my fitness. Almost everywhere I go, my first question is, where's the gym? Or where's the closest gym? Because I know that helps maintain my stress level. It's good for my body, and it helps your sleep.
Well, were there guys that like, I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter, as soon as she gets in an airplane, she's asleep. I mean, she doesn't even wait for takeoff. My other daughter can't sleep on the plane. So were there SEALs that some guys would just bunk out and just crash, and then other guys that would stay up and be jittery? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yep. I was a sleeper. I never had a problem. I could get on a helicopter and pass out immediately. So, I've been very fortunate. I went through a couple of years after my injuries where I had a lot of sleep issues. I will admit that. And I did quite a few different treatments, and that was a combination of both probably the minor traumatic brain injury and the post-traumatic stress. But once I, dealt with all that stuff and went through some different treatments, I finally got back to where I could sleep. And thankfully, 90% of the time, I'm pretty good. And within the SEAL teams, I think guys are the same way. You got to remember, even if you're doing a lot of high-risk missions, if you do it all the time, like when I was in Iraq in 2007, we were conducting missions almost every night. So, I don't want to say that it wasn't the same as the first time. Like, I remember my first combat mission in Afghanistan, like the amount of anxiety I felt. And I will say that first combat mission in Afghanistan was only a month after Operation Red Wings, and that was my troop where everybody had been shot down and killed. Yeah. So, there was definitely, I think, a lot more anxiety and the realization, hey, man, this job is for real, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
But as you do it more, I think with any job, and even in a military job where you're doing some high risk thing that could potentially cost you your life, you still get into a routine and you learn to manage that anxiety and all those different things. The downside is it actually comes at a cost. We have a lot of guys, and I think I was one of them when I came home, that you learn how to manage that fight or flight, because even though you learn how to manage it, your body still recognizes the intensity and the adrenaline rush of, going after bad guys and being shot at or whatever's going on. But you learn to manage it and keep yourself calm in the middle of all that. Well, there's an effect on your body. Your body gets locked into this mode where, we have a lot of guys who say, yeah, man, I feel like I don't feel emotions anymore. I don't feel happy and I don't feel sad. And there's like this emotional numbing that is a byproduct of all of this. And so a lot of guys, it also impacts, we have a lot of special operations guys. I'm one of them that came home and it killed my testosterone. And they think that's a byproduct of being in this fight or flight mode
all the time.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. All those things impact, your sleep and everything else. So, figuring out how to deal with that is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a journey. I mean, I was thinking about first responders, and I don't know that people talk about it enough as far as a police or a fire. I told you earlier, my brother-in-law's a fireman, and the things they see on a regular basis are, for my brother-in-law, it's not the fires, it's the car accidents and the medical calls that they have to go on. And how do you, and then like you said, the adrenaline dump when you come home from that. How do you fall asleep after you just literally peeled a guy off out of his car?
My hat's off to the police and the firefighters that are out there. I mean, this vilification of police that's happening across country just makes me sick. Because I know how hard and how honorable the vast majority of those guys and gals are, and how they deal with such hard situations, just like you talked about. Thankfully for me, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, you must have seen such horrific things in combat." And we were pretty fortunate. I mean, for me, at least on my deployment, all the people that were killed, I was glad they were dead. And I felt no remorse over them being dead. At the end of the day, this machine you walk around in is just flesh and blood. We're all the same. But when you see it when you see someone innocent, someone who was living their life, everything was good, and then they were in this car accident, it's a kid or somebody else. Yeah, that is something really hard to process. And I think you carry those scars with you. I think the guys in combat that carry the hardest scars are the ones that maybe they killed somebody they didn't intend to, or women and children were involved in a target that they took down, and things like that. So I've done some work, talking about post-traumatic stress and how we deal with that stuff with fire and police. And it's rewarding for me to be able to help them, but also, there's a lot of them that are really suffering.
Yeah, it's like I said, my grandfather was a police officer in Cleveland, Ohio, back in the, I want to say late 40s, early 50s, right after World War II. And the things he saw, he never talked about it, at least not to me. And then my uncle was in Vietnam and did apparently some crazy stuff, like tunnel rat kind of thing, but he never talked about it. And then I'm talking to my brother-in-law, and he's telling me about, the accident on the 2 freeway, and the guy flipped over and his head popped open. We couldn't find his head. And I'm like, what? And then you're like, and then you went back to your bunk and went to sleep. He goes, "Oh yeah, I gotta sleep." It's like, oh my God, how do you process that? And I'm like, I'm worried about my sales call. You know what I mean? It's all relative, I guess.
It is. And I don't know, no matter what, and I guess you kind of get a little bit numb to it, but like I said, in combat, you expect it.
Yeah, like I said,
we expect it.
You're killing bad guys. That's got to be.
For the most part,
yeah,
as it should be. But yeah, I mean, anytime I remember talking to a friend of mine he was a Marine who fought in Fallujah and was home last year, and motorcycle rider was riding in an organized ride, and the gal on the back of a bike in front of him fell off the bike and was not wearing a helmet, and literally on the highway doing 60 miles an hour, and cracked her head on the pavement and literally just pretty much exploded her skull.
Yep.
And he was right behind her and saw all of this happen. And he was like, "Jay, man, I've been in all kinds of combat and I've never seen anything like that." And it really shook him up. And I was like, dude, it's just not natural to see people's insides on their outside. I mean, that's it. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that's my brother-in-law said that they had to come back on one call. They had to come back the next day because they couldn't find body parts at night. And he had gone off an overlap, and things had flown off so far that they couldn't find him in the dark. So they go back when the sun came up. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Shout out to all those guys and gals out there.
Well, and that's, like I said, I don't think a lot of people talk about the PTSD that cops and firemen see on a daily basis. I mean, just on the regular. So I don't know. Makes me glad I do what I do.
Yeah, I will admit I like motivating and inspiring people better. I don't know. I got out and I was like, you know what? I'm done making my living with a gun.
Yeah, no kidding. So what do you have coming up? What's your 2021 looking like?
You know, it's really shaping up well. I'm pretty excited. I mean, one of the benefits of COVID, if you will, and not traveling was it's really given me some time to kind of figure out what specifically is my content that I want to be delivering. So I've been working on a whole new program, and it's exciting because the Trident was my first book, which is really the story, and Overcome being the second book was really the how-to. So there's just a ton of content, you know, really to unpack, and it all kind of flows together, and how you not only deal with adversity, but how you stay on course within your own life. And I don't know, earlier this year, I was given a talk, and I started talking about the fact that wouldn't it be great, you know, when I was on a mission, I had point men. And even at one time in my career, when I was younger, going through training, I was a point man. And a point man is an individual in the military that it's their job to get you where you want to go, specifically to the target or to a destination where you want to go. And really good point men are just phenomenal. Like you never want to give them up.
Yeah.
Like not only they amazing navigators, really good point men know how to get you where you want to go with the most efficient, least energy consuming route. Because, you know, if they take you, you know, across every mountain and, you know, every minefield, that obviously isn't good for everybody, both mentally and physically. So they have that capability. They have the capability. They do a ton of research. They understand the layout. They understand, hey, where's enemy activity? Are there bombs, explosives, whatever? What, you know, if we are going into enemy territory, what's the training level of the enemy? They also understand, they're attuned to the environment around them. So they're watching everything around them. What indicators, the signs that basically say, hey, something's not right. Like we're stepping into a danger area and we need to get our senses up because, you know, there's an indicator here that maybe something's going to happen. And then the last thing, they obviously, if things do go wrong, they're very good at constantly, because they're out front, because they're leading, they're already thinking about, if we were attacked here, where would we go? How would we counterattack? So they're very good at getting off the X. And the X is being the point of attack, the point of crisis, and that's a big thing that I speak on. Yeah. So anyways, earlier in the year, I was talking about all this, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be amazing if we all had a point man? You know, you had your own point man recce team that you would just wake up every day and you'd be like, hey, point man Joe or point man Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah, what am I doing today? And they'd be like, hey, Pete, I want to let you know this is your mission for today. And here's your destination and here's your course. And oh, by the way, these are the risks done from our risk assessment. And we're going to be out front leading the way. So just follow us. We're leaving in an hour. You'd be like, man, this is awesome. And you were able to get where you needed to go and do the things you needed to do safely, efficiently. Well, problem is that doesn't exist.
Damn it.
You know, or it's damn expensive to be able to find something like that. So the reality is, I started thinking about, you know, you really have to become the point man for your own life. And people who are very successful, that's exactly what they are. They clearly understand their mission. They understand their destination. They know how to stay on course despite the distractors. They take most of the time the most efficient route to get there. They don't, you know, kill themselves getting there. They do good risk assessments. They know what they're getting themselves into. If they get off course, they pull their compass back out. They get back on course because they have, you know, relentless belief in their mission. It guides them. And then, of course, if things go wrong, they know how to get off the X. So all that to be said, I am launching a new program in 2021 called Point Man for Life. And it is all about that. And it is to help individuals and companies really lay those things out. how do you define your mission? A mission that you truly can believe in, a mission that isn't just words on paper. It is something that when things go wrong, when things get off course, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, you can go back to it and say, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Let me bust my compass out to get back on course. Or, man, I am just overwhelmed with what's going on right now. The bullets and bombs of life are going off. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is my mission. This is why I've got to get off the X and drive forward as quickly as possible. So that's what I'm launching in 2021. Everything from high-level one-on-one executive coaching with individuals who maybe they've gotten off course because of a crisis and an ambush and a catastrophic event in their business or personal life.
You mean like the pandemic?
I am launched. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you name it. 2020 is the year of the life ambush.
Man, it is.
I'm launching an online course. I'm launching a new planner called the Point Man Planner, and it totally walks you through how to do those things. How do you define your mission? How do you define your destination, your course? And how do you, I have a tool I teach called the React methodology and how you deal with life ambushes or crisis when you get in them. So these are all the things I'm launching. I've got workshops. So I'm pretty excited about getting it out there and trying to help people become the best point man for their lives.
Sign me up. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, no joke, man. You know, I always tell people, like, I remember telling people like 4 months ago, we were about halfway through the pandemic that we're at now. And I'm like, I remember the recession of 08, 09, and it was crushing for my business. I mean, I was in commercial real estate, and the development side of it dropped 98%. So it was gone. So all of a sudden I started selling Western clothing, you know, and now because of the recession, which I thought was just a horrific time in my life, I got the best job, better relationship with my wife, my kids, making more money, started my podcast. I mean, all because of the recession. I wouldn't have the life I had if I didn't go through those, kind of like with what you went through. I mean,
and you know, Pete, it's such a good point, and it's something I talk about often, that when life ambushes come along, so often I also call them the end moments, because so often when we're in these massive points of crisis, we think to ourselves, it's the end. You know, there's no, you know, this is it. You know, 98% reduction in the commercial real estate market. I'm sure you were like, this is the end. Where do I go from here? Yeah. And the good news about that, if you're willing to embrace it, you're willing to grind through the little bit of the pain and discomfort that comes with them, it often creates that new beginning. And look where you are now. No different from me. If you had told me when I was a SEAL before I got wounded that someday, you know, you're going to be a New York Times bestselling author and you're going to be speaking on stages, I would have laughed.
Yeah, you'd be like, excuse me?
Yeah. But it became a new beginning. And that's why it's so important to get off that X as quickly as possible, because you don't know what that new beginning is. But the sooner you move forward, specifically, if it truly is the closing of one chapter of your life, then man, stop spending so much time grieving over that past. I mean, you can't go back and get it back. We can never change the past. All we can do is shape the future. So, man, get off the X and start, figure out what is the new path. Because, look at you. You obviously out of 2008 now have done incredibly well.
Well, and it's interesting you said about this year's. My best year ever in sales was last year. And because I'm 6 months out, like I'm literally selling 2021 clothing now, just about. So, the best year I ever had was 2019. And through February, I was on track. 2020 was going to be even better. And I mean,
wow.
No one knew about the pandemic, so here I am, I'm building my podcast. It's growing. I'm in 96 countries now. I've listened to my show and I'm having my best year ever in sales, and I'm staying in shape. And then the pandemic hits and it's like, oh, come on. It's like, oh, well, we just lost all of the holiday shipments, which, people don't even understand. It's like when that shut down in March, all your clothing that you were going to get for holiday was getting backed up. So, but coming out of it, I've now interviewed more people and with my podcast than I did prior. And it's easier now because a lot of the people I wanted to talk to were on the road a lot, like you know. But now with now with the pandemic, you're at home trying to figure things out, but you also have time to do crazy podcast calls like me.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
So it worked out. So, hey man, I appreciate the time. I can't wait to check out the Point Man project. What's it called again?
It's called, it's two-part. It's called Point Man for Life is the program. So that's going to be the coaching, the workshops, keynote, all that stuff. And then, and an online course. So with the Point Man for Life, there's going to be a 3-month online course that basically can walk you through this. And then the Point Man Planner. If you sign up for the course, which will launch in January, you actually get the Point Man Planner for free. It comes with it. And, but it walks you through all these things. How do you define your mission? You know, I always had a mission in the military. So I have a mission for my own life, you know? And what is your life's mission objective? You know, these are really critical questions that guide you through the harder times of your life, and they keep you on course. So yeah, we will have probably within the next month, we'll be teasing some of that on my website, and then we will get it launched. The goal is to launch January 15th.
That's awesome. You know, it's going to be great to see how you've overcome the pandemic and with your business and all that. Are you still going to be? Are you still planning on doing speaking engagements, or are you going to be focused on the Point Man project?
No, I'm still going to be doing. I love speaking, and you know, obviously, speaking gives me an opportunity to talk about some of these different things. Yeah. So, I'll be doing all of the above. My goal in 2021 is keynotes, it's workshops. It's increasing. I want to be doing some high-level executive coaching. You know, I'm going to be looking for individuals, you know, specifically, I think my superpower is helping people that have been through some sort of catastrophic life ambush, and they're at that the end moment. They don't know how to drive forward, but the reality is it's never too late. It's never too late. You know, sometimes you just need somebody to help you dust off your compass and figure out how to get back on course. And that's I'm that guy. Well, I'll be your point man, and then I'll teach you how to be the point man for your own life.
And that is so key. I started my podcast at 51, you know, not knowing, having any background with editing or audio, not wanting to be in the limelight. Yeah. So just learn a new thing. So,
yeah. You know, reinvented yourself. Yeah, and now you're out there in all these different countries with it.
Yeah. Which is just another bizarre thing. Well, I don't want to forget, you have your new podcast, Moving the Needle.
I do. Yeah, we just launched it. I'm really excited. So, Pete, yeah, thanks for plugging that. We just launched it 2 weeks ago. We're getting ready to drop episode number 2. In the beginning, we're going to be putting it out every other week.
Okay.
And it is a podcast that we are interviewing some of the highest level CEOs, entrepreneurs, athletes, elite performers who have achieved a very high level of success, but have had to overcome failure and adversity along the way, which is pretty much almost everybody. It's pretty rare you find somebody that achieved a level of success without setbacks. So we came out of the gate strong with John Paul DeJoria. He's the founder of Paul Mitchell and Patron, a billionaire with a B.
Very strong.
And, and he's a great guy, and really enjoying the format of the show. So I'll give those who are listening, our next podcast will drop whenever we do. Today's November 5th, so whatever Monday is when the next one drops. And we've got the Chicken Soup for the Soul. Mark Hansen helped write that whole entire series, and we interview him and his lovely wife, and so it's a great interview. So Moving the Needle, you can find it on all the major platforms out there.
Absolutely. And like the first episode was awesome, by the way. It really was.
Thank you,
JP. And
thank you.
Have you found? I met him briefly at a NFR party in Las Vegas one time. I mean, briefly, like hi, you know, but you could just tell that he was totally approachable. Like even though he's a billionaire, he was just talking to everybody like it was no, you know, there was no air of don't talk to him.
He is a very genuine person. Yeah. I've been really fortunate to become very good friends with his best friend. and I've gotten to spend some time with him, and he just is this genuine, great person who truly believes, and you can tell he's passionate, but he lives what he says.
Yeah.
And he gives back in so many different ways. So, yeah, I was really fortunate that he had the time and was willing to be on Moving the Needle.
You know, it's interesting. I don't want to digress, but doing this show and talking to people like you and some of the others, and hearing JP, it seems like I always built. When I was a kid, I didn't I didn't live in California. I wasn't around celebrities. It was like a different world back then. There was no internet. So the idea that I'm talking to some of the people I'm talking to now, I'm like, oh my gosh. But they're all pretty normal people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some guys have bad days and some are good days. But I don't know. Everyone's kind of the same.
We're all human. That's what I've come to find. As a matter of fact, it's a huge turnoff when I find someone who is really arrogant or full of themselves. And I've found a few people like that, but that's not the majority. I mean, the majority are really great, down-to-earth people. I mean, so many of the people that I've met that have been incredibly successful at whatever level, they're good people.
Maybe I think that's the key. Be good people.
Mm-hmm.
It does help. So what are the other ways that my listeners can follow you, see what you got going on? What's the best way?
Go to thanks, Pete. Yeah, go to jasonredman.com. That's my website, and from there it'll take you pretty much anywhere you want to go. You can buy signed copies of my book through my online store. We have Overcome merchandise. There may be some Point Man for Life merchandise coming soon. Hint, hint. You have links to the podcast. You have links to my social media. You can sign up for my newsletter, and we're really trying to ramp up, the positive content. A lot of people are huge fans of every Monday. I do something called Monday Muster, and it's actually part of my group. It is a motivational message on Monday, and it's no more than 10 minutes. Usually it's about 6 to 10 minutes, but it's all about how you start the week off strong with positive mindset, and it's all about different things that we all encounter in life and how to be positive and drive forward. And I post that on all my socials on Monday morning just to kick the week off right. So those are all the things I got going. Those are the ways to get a hold of me.
I will definitely share them on my website as well. Can I ask you one other question? And I don't know, it's just why I do the show. When you speak on stage, I see that you wear the trident, and then you also wear your Purple Heart. Is there a reason why you don't wear the Bronze Star, or is it? I don't know. Is that a no-no?
No, I could.
Okay.
I don't know. The trident and the Purple Heart. I mean, I wear the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart truly represents, sacrifice in the military. And it is actually the oldest military medal. George Washington designed the Purple Heart.
That's why he's on.
And I am George Washington is probably my favorite person from history. I think he was an amazing leader. So for me, to wear the trident and the Purple Heart, and the Purple Heart is also a very recognizable, most people know what that is.
Yeah.
So I wear that just because, one, I was tied to the SEAL teams, and two, obviously being severely wounded. So that's why I chose to wear those two.
Do you think
good question.
I was just curious. Do you think you're predisposed to be a motivational person? Because, and I say that because of the poster, the sign that you did when you were, I think, at Walter Reed, or maybe, was it Walter Reed? When you put up the red poster. That's a motivational speech, handwritten. So
it is.
Do you think
and it's been seen by millions and millions and millions of people, which is pretty amazing.
But obviously, you weren't thinking, "Hey, I'm going to use this to my advantage in 5 years when I get out of this." You wrote it sincerely.
No, not at all. There was really not a whole lot of thought that went into it, and that's a true statement. It wasn't like I was sitting there, and for a day thought about all this and then wrote it out. I mean, it truly was a little bit of stream of consciousness. It happened in the moment when some negative people, some people were in my room that kind of, they made some comments that were full of a lot of pity. And basically that, we would never recover from the injuries that we sustained. Maybe if we did it physically, we never would mentally or emotionally. And I remember hearing all that and thinking to myself, man,
how can you know?
Is that true? Is that really me? And I was like, no, that's not me, man. I'm not, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive forward and I'm going to get off this X. And I wrote out that sign. And for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, it was a bright orange sign that I hung on my hospital door. And what I wrote was, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country that I deeply love. I will make full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And then I'll push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. And if you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management, because I don't know why that made sense at the moment. And yeah, it kind of went viral. And what's really cool now is the sign. I didn't keep it. I'll be honest. I didn't really feel like it was mine to keep. I felt like it really captured the spirit of the wounded warriors in that hospital. So I got invited to the White House, met President Bush. He signed it, and we had it framed and dedicated to the hospital. So it actually hangs right in the middle of the wounded ward at Walter Reed.
I think most people, especially with the social media world, should hang that sign on their brain, and say, don't come in if it's going to be crappy negative. I think,
we need no kidding.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that sign applies to everybody. I think that's why it went viral. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, it does. I agree.
So, hey, man, I don't want to take any more of your time. I truly appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you when you come out.
Yeah, Pete, count on it. When I come out there, I'd love to meet and, grab a tasty beverage or a coffee, maybe a meal. So
yeah. And I wish you and the family a great holiday season. It's going to be
thank you.
A good one.
You guys too.
So
we're looking forward to it. We're actually we're looking forward to some time together. I mean, this will be the last. My son, hopefully, and beginning of 2021 will head off to music production school, and my daughter in the fall will be heading off to college. So, it's there'll be a big year, 2021 for us.
And then it'll be 2022 because I can tell you from experience, all of a sudden it's like, hey, what happened? I remember when they were in high school.
Yeah.
I was thinking, 2 nights ago, my daughter's going to have her 10-year reunion coming up. And I'm like, what?
Crazy.
How can that be? It's not possible. That means I'm getting old.
I know. I hate that.
I wonder if do you have the same thing? I don't feel old until I hang out with my daughter's friends or see them. Meaning, I feel normal right now. I'm 53. I'm in shape.
I'm a little younger than I'm 45, and I feel the same way.
But then I see my daughter's friends, and my wife's like, "Who's that?" And I go, "Oh, I coached her in lacrosse." And she's a woman now. They're 25, 26, and I'm like, why are all the pretty girls saying hi to you, Pete? And I'm like, no, I've known her since she was 8. I used to coach her in soccer. I swear.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
That's funny.
Well, hey, bud, again, thanks again. And I look forward to staying in touch and being part of your team.
Yeah, Pete, likewise. I mean, anything I can do for you, please let me know. And when this is ready to post, hit me up.
You got it, brother. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, Pete, you too, man. Look forward to staying connected.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.